With this photograph, I want to explore how we can work with this soft focus effect, but rather than increase the color saturation, I want to create a desaturated aesthetic. So in order to do this, what we're going to do is go through some of the similar steps, but then make a few modifications. Alright, well over in our layers panel, you'll notice we have the background layer, and the background layer is the original file as captured, and then we have the file after some basic retouching. Well next, I want to start to build up this effect. So here we'll copy this top layer by pressing Command or Control J. We'll go ahead and name this layer Blur and Soft Light. Next step, we'll navigate to our Filter pull-down menu. We'll choose Blur and Gaussian Blur. And the amount of the blur will always be contingent upon the resolution of the file. In this case, it's a pretty low-res file, so I have a small radius. I just want to see some of the detail, but it should look out of focus. Here we'll click OK, and then we'll take this to a blending mode of soft light. Now when we do that, we have an interesting look. Here's the before and then the after, except it's just bringing in too much color saturation. I want to go for something a little bit more bleached out. Here's how we'll accomplish this. We need to create a couple more layers. First, let's merge all of these to the topmost layer. To do so, press Shift, Option, Command E on a Mac, Shift, Alt, Control E on Windows. Let's turn off the visibility of this layer. That one's now gone. And on this top layer, what we're going to do is desaturate this. We're also going to add some blur and then soft light blending. To desaturate this layer, one easy way is to choose Image, Adjustments, and then desaturate. That will simply remove the color. Next step, we're going to go ahead and change this blending mode to soft light. Well, now here we're starting to develop this bleached aesthetic. Here we have that before and then now after. But this layer needs a little bit more blur, so we're going to go to Filter, we'll choose Blur and Gaussian Blur, and now that we're on the soft light blending, we can see we just need just a touch more there and click OK. Alright, well we're starting to get close. Here we have that before and after. But what I want to do next is I want to be able to control the brightness as well. So I'll turn off this layer. I'll turn back on my original blur and soft light layer and target that one. Next, I'm going to copy everything to the top again. Press Shift, Option, Command E on a Mac, Shift, Alt, Control E on Windows. Turn off that underlying layer. We can leave the blur as is. We're simply going to apply a blending mode of screen. Now, of course, we could add blur if we want to, but we may not need to with this layer, and you'll see why in a second. Alright, well let's focus in on these layers for a moment. I'll double click my Adjustments tab so we can see what we have. We have just our original background layers here and the retouch file. Up top we have this layer. We're going to change the blending mode to screen. That's going to really brighten everything up. Underneath that, we have a desaturated layer with a blending mode of soft light. We can then use these two different layers to blend the effect together. Too much brightness, we'll just lower down the screen effect. Too much contrast, go ahead and lower down that effect. And what we can do is mix these two together in order to come up with this really distinct aesthetic. Take a look. Here's that before and then now after. It has a glow, it's a little bit bleached out, it's a little bit desaturated, and it's hard to identify what's happening. And when you're working with creative effects in Photoshop, many times that's exactly what you want. You want someone to say, wow, that looks interesting. I can't figure it out and I can't get it out of my head. It's drawing me in. So in this case, we're able to kind of work with this effect by having these two different layers. Well, let's compare this, say, to just one single layer. Well, if we turn those off and then try to remember what that looked like, in comparison, here we have a nice effect with the color saturation, but it's completely different than what we have by creating these two layers. One where it's desaturated. We added a bit more blur and a soft light blending mode. Then another one up top, simply with that screen blending mode. That gave us that nice brightness value, which gave us this overall effect. Here it is, before, and then now, after.